In Legends, the night before Darth Sidious was elected Chancellor of the Republic, he and his master, Darth Plagueis, retired to Plagueis' penthouse on Coruscant to celebrate Palpatine's imminent victory. Having given his sun guards the evening off, the only other intelligence in the sprawling apartment was Plagueis' personal droid, 114D, who served half-century-old Celestin wine to the two Sith Lords. As Plagueis and his apprentice began drinking, Sidious complimented Plagueis for his part in bringing the Sith Grand Plan that much closer to fruition, as the blockade and invasion of Naboo would lead Sidious to almost certain victory in being named Chancellor, thus bringing the Sith one step closer to toppling the Republic and Jedi. Sidious explained to his Sith Master that he would endeavor to live up to Plagueis' expectations and fulfill his responsibility in ensuring the Sith's return to dominance across the galaxy. At the request of Plagueis, Sidious then began to rehearse his victory speech he'd give the following day to the Senate once elected Chancellor of the Republic. In his speech, Sidious planned to discuss how the Senate had managed to keep the Republic intact for a millennia, but that the Sith couldn't have accomplished that feat without the help of a few beings, largely invisible to the public eye, beings whose accomplishments needed to be brought to the light of day, such as Higo Damas II, which was Plagueis' public name. As the night wore on, Sidious continued working on his speech, amending and improvising lines that needed it, while also removing controversial topics such as bringing up Plagueis' relationship with the Trade Federation. The Sith apprentice continuously practiced his victory speech and reworked and refined it, all while his Sith Master imbibed more and more on the delicious Celestin wine. After 14D had brought out the fourth bottle of wine, Plagueis was pleasantly intoxicated, having wanted nothing more than to revel in the sweet taste of victory, to bask in the gratifying realization that, after decades of tireless work to see the Sith Grand Plan come to fruition, the Sith were on the precipice of galactic domination. Exhausted by his collaborator's performance and rehearsal of his speech, Plagueis wanted nothing more than to close his eyes and drift into imaginings of his march into the Senate rotunda, to see the looks of astonishment on the faces of the gathered senators, and to delight in his ascension to galactic power from his long-awaited emergence from the shadows. But unbeknownst to Plagueis, Sidious had other plans. Seeking one final practice run of his speech, Sidious beckoned his master to join him one last time before evening's end. Plagueis consented, prompting Sidious to instruct 14D to fill their glasses with more wine. With a dreamy weariness beginning to overtake him, Plagueis struggled to lift the wine glass to his face before setting it down and spilling the fine libation. Sidious then came to a halt and gazed at his master for a long moment, as though making up his mind about something. The Sith apprentice started for the door, but stopped himself and began reaching out with the Force and scanning the room as though he sought to fix a memory to his mind. Sidious then moved in a blur. Crackling from his fingertips, a web of blue lightning lashed at Plagueis' respirator, prompting the Sith Master's eyes to snap open. Although the Force gathered in him like a storm, Plagueis stopped short of defending himself, confident that he could not be killed and seeking to challenge his apprentice. Taken aback by his master's denial that he was slowly suffocating, Sidious stood momentarily still before his resolve was restored and he drew upon the dark side more deeply, unleashing another tangle of Force lightning. Sidious then began to mock and scold his master, deriding him for manipulating a young Sidious into killing his entire family, for withholding his most powerful of Sith secrets as a means to control his apprentice, all while turning away from the grand plan to focus on an egotistical quest for immortality. Sidious continued levying insults at Plagueis, chiding his master for derision towards him for taking pride in the training he provided to the Sith assassin Maul. As the Sith Master struggled to breathe, his apprentice reminded him that he failed to realize that he was not excused from the Rule of Two, regardless of the fact that Plagueis had thought he superseded its tenets, and that he had forged the most powerful Sith Lord the galaxy had ever known. Clinging to life and working to gather his midi-chlorians, Plagueis fought to keep himself alive as his apprentice continued to choke the life out of him. Amused by the sight of his master, and by the thought that Plagueis had lost on the very first day he chose Sidious as his apprentice, the young noble from Naboo took the opportunity to thoroughly disparage Plagueis, telling him that for the whole of their relationship, the apprentice had manipulated the master, playing him like a pawn. And throughout the relentless derision, Sidious sent forth additional blasts of lightning, causing the Muun immense pain as he slowly suffocated. Strangely, but perhaps merely reflecting that early psycho-emotional conflict and trauma, Sidious then expressed to the senior Sith his genuine gratitude for the teachings that Plagueis had passed on to him. Nearing death's final embrace, Plagueis listened helplessly as Sidious explained that he could save his Sith Master from the brink of death, just as Plagueis had done with Darth Venamis, and that he could retask Plagueis' body to repair the damage done to his master's lungs, heart, and brain. However, Sidious planned to do no such thing and would make sure to bring his master to death's door and shove him through the other side. And in Plagueis' final moments, Sidious proclaimed that it was such a tragedy that for all of Plagueis' wisdom and his ability to oversee the life and death of so many beings, he failed to prevent his own death. Sidious continued on, explaining that just as he and Plagueis clouded the minds of the Jedi, he had clouded the mind of his master, that he never had any intention of sharing power with Plagueis, and that his master was nothing more than a pawn in a game played by a true master. And just before Plagueis slid to the floor and death rattled his lungs as he he died, Sidious told him he could rest easy as the Sith will have their revenge and that his apprentice would soon be proclaimed Emperor and he would rule the galaxy. As the stricken Darth Plagueis finally succumbed to death, Sidious felt a monumental shift in the Force, which he interpreted as the dark side anointing him as the tool it would use to take over the galaxy. With Plagueis dead, Sidious then informed the droid 114D that he'd need to find him a new home and a new body as the first rays of sunlight gilded the summits of the tallest buildings outside the penthouse windows. Following the death of Plagueis and Palpatine's successful election as the new Chancellor of the Republic, the Dark Lord of the Sith's first order of business as a Sith Master and leader of the Republic was to travel to his homeworld of Naboo. There, he congratulated Queen Padme Amidala and her allies on their surprise victory over the Trade Federation. Shortly thereafter, he stood amongst Jedi such as Yoda, Mace Windu, and other Jedi Masters and watched the funeral pyre for the fallen Jedi Qui-Gon Jinn. As the Sith Master watched Jinn's body reduced to ash, he watched with great pleasure, knowing that the Jedi was just the first casualty in a war that had been declared but not yet begun, one in which 10,000 Jedi would follow Qui-Gon to the grave. And just as Plagueis, Sidious, and all of the Sith of the line of Darth Bane had planned and foreseen, Darth Sidious would go on to successfully topple both the Republic and Jedi, and, in their place, create the Galactic Empire and bring about Sith dominance across the galaxy. But what's your thoughts on the tragedy of Darth Plagueis the Wise and his murder at the hands of Sidious? Would you like to see this story brought into canon? Let me know down in the comments. If you like this video, please help out the channel by hitting that like button and making sure you subscribe. Follow the channel on TikTok at SW Transmissions. Thanks for watching, and may the Force be with you.